People in the Fever were like, y'all.
That's not my point. There's a lot of other going on that players are like, this ain't where I want to be.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some new
like
shit
it's
going
a
on
lot.
around there.
It's a lot. So you have players that are very significant on this Indiana Fever team that are like, I don't
want to be here.
This is where I want to be.
When Sheryl Swoopes made that bold statement, well, DeWanna just ended her 6-month Twitter silence, and she didn't come back with a simple, hey, I'm back post. Instead, she dropped a powerful statement that sent shockwaves through the entire WNBA. Not only did she announce that she's officially joining the Indiana Fever, but she also shut down one of the most tired and baseless narratives in the league, the idea that Caitlin Clark and Indiana Fever fans are toxic. That narrative completely dismantled.
This WNBA offseason killed a lot of dumbass narratives, right? It really did. And I hope they're gone for good. And I hope we spend so much less time discussing nonsense. But I think we've seen it stamped out this offseason. And one of those narratives was people wouldn't want to go to the Fever because of the Fever fan.
Wondering, wait, isn't this the team everyone loves to hate? The one players are supposedly avoiding? Well, Bonner isn't having it. She saw the ridiculous claims from so-called legend Sheryl Swoopes, the endless social media debates and the same tired talking points. But instead of staying quiet, she chose to set the record straight.
To all the crazy people on social media calling her every name under the sun because she chose to play in Indiana. These are the same people that are like, oh, she'll never play in Indiana for obvious reasons. And she went and defended the Indiana fans and was like, talking about she was basically like talking positively about the fans that were interacting with her positively, and was responding to one of the crazy posts about her being like, I'm getting screenshots of things you were saying about me, can you
picture this? Bonner scrolling through her phone, probably enjoying a quiet moment, when she stumbles upon yet another wave of misinformation. Fans questioning why she'd sign with Indiana. Analysts still clinging to the outdated idea that no one wants to play for the Fever. But instead of rolling her eyes and ignoring it, Bonner did something much more powerful. She spoke up and set the record straight.
It goes to show you that I think hopefully all that stuff has been put in the rear view. And of course, Bonner is a pro.
Responded, and not just with a clapback. Bonner obliterated the conversation with one perfectly crafted tweet. She didn't just defend herself. She went all in for Indiana Fever fans. She basically said, "Y'all are loud, passionate, and real. That's not toxic. That's what true fandom looks like." And that was all it took.
Often, because this app is insanely too much sometimes. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all the love I've received so far. Deaf, not unnoticed. The love is real.
She didn't stop there. Bonner called out the hypocrisy, exposing the double standard in how fan bases are treated. Why is it that when other teams' fans show passion, it's praised as loyal support, but when Indiana Fever fans do the same, it's suddenly labeled as toxic? And why does the criticism conveniently ramp up the moment the Fever start winning and gaining national attention? Bonner wasn't just making a personal statement. She was shining a light on the league-wide bias that's followed Indiana ever since Caitlin Clark arrived.
She's gone online for 2 times. One is to call out the crazy people attacking her right now because she joined the Fever.
This isn't just about fan reactions, it's about respect. Indiana Fever fans and their players have been denied that for far too long. And Bonner's done letting the lies slide. What makes her statement even more powerful is who it's coming from. Bonner isn't some young player chasing attention. She's a legend. A multi-time WNBA champion. One of the most respected names in the game. When she speaks, the entire league listens. This isn't just an ordinary player venting on social media. This is a seasoned veteran, someone who's played through multiple eras of WNBA history, stepping up to call out the nonsense and defend her new team.
Fever fans are probably starving for that. And I think seeing the validation of the players choosing their team.
And to Bonner made it clear, Indiana isn't some struggling franchise barely hanging on. With Caitlin Clark leading the charge, the Fever are building something special. They're not just aiming to be competitive, they're coming for the top teams in the league, and Bonner is all in on that mission. She's not just signing, With Indiana, she's joining a movement.
It's funny because if you're seeing like DeWanna Bonner, if you're seeing like Natasha Howard, on social media, Natasha Howard's posts are getting 100 times more likes, and DeWanna Bonner's been reacting more positively, probably.
Best part, the response to her tweet has been massive. Indiana Fever fans are rallying behind her like never before, showing the same passion Bonner defended, and those same voices who swore nobody wanted to play for Indiana.
What it do, peeps? Sheryl Swoopes is been missing. Sheryl Swoopes is MIA. They got a APB out for Sheryl Swoopes. If you see Sheryl Swoopes, she did a lot of talking a few months ago about the Indiana Fever, the locker room environment, how people didn't want to play there, how people wanted to leave.
The only thing left to do is watch the haters scramble to rewrite history. They'll pretend they never said Indiana wasn't a desirable destination. They'll act like they weren't dismissing Caitlin Clark's impact. But at this point, it's too late. The Indiana Fever have already won the battle off the court, and now they're gearing up to win on it too.
That thank you from DeWanna Bonner, being olive branch to us all, to focus on the basketball. But I did think it was worth sharing, simply because I know a lot of those fans, the new fans, felt rejected and beaten down a lot. And I think this is symbolic.
DeWanna Bonner, Caitlin Clark, and the Fever aren't just building a team. They're rewriting the future of the WNBA. And if the rest of the league isn't paying attention yet, they will be soon. You've probably heard the so-called controversy surrounding the Indiana Fever fan base, right? The narrative being pushed is that their fans are toxic, too intense, and that players are supposedly avoiding the team because of it. But let's be real. That storyline has collapsed faster than a bad defensive rotation. And you know who helped start this mess? Alyssa Thomas. Yeah, Bonner's own wife was out here stirring the pot, claiming Fever fans were so unbearable that players wanted nothing to do with Indiana.
In my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base. We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it, and we've been professional throughout the whole entire thing, but I've never been called the things that I've been called on social media.
But here's the plot twist. Despite all that noise, star. Players aren't running away from the Fever. They're running toward them. DeWanna Bonner, Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham, and Sydney Coulson didn't just sign with the team. They embraced it. And these aren't role players scrambling for minutes on a struggling franchise. These are battle-tested veterans and high-impact stars. They saw all the headlines about a supposedly toxic fan base and still said, yeah, I want to be part of that.
No argument that the Fever are a great basketball destination, that Caitlin Clark is a great basketball.
Let's talk about the numbers, because as always, they don't lie. Indiana Fever fan engagement is through the roof. We're talking sold-out arenas, merchandise flying off the shelves, and social media buzzing like never before. This isn't a struggling franchise barely holding on. This is a team that's become the heartbeat of the WNBA. And at the center of it all, Caitlin Clark. She's not just bringing in new fans, she's turning casual viewers into die-hard supporters.
Fever fan base being painted with this broad brushstroke was always just stupid, really. There's no other word for it, because Caitlin Clark brought more fans to the league than it's ever seen. So many of them are Fever fans.
To think about how ridiculous this all sounds. Just a few years ago, Indiana was written off as an afterthought in the WNBA. Now they're the hottest ticket in town. It's like judging an entire restaurant based on one bad Yelp review. It just doesn't add up. The truth is, every team has a few bad apples in their fan base. That's just sports. But to act like Indiana's supporters are some kind of toxic outlier, that's pure desperation. So what's really going on here? Why are people so eager to attack Fever fans? The answer is simple. Indiana is winning. Not just on the court, but in the battle for relevance, attention, and influence. They're no longer an afterthought, and that makes some people uncomfortable. Instead of admitting that Indiana Fever fans are the backbone of something special, the haters would rather spin this weird, baseless narrative that players don't want to be there.
A lot of fans, I think, felt unwelcome as a result of that, because when you look at every sport, and every fan base, there are going to be bad apples. With every group of people, there are. And the larger that group becomes, of course, then the larger the small percentage of bad apples are. But if you've ever followed sports, you see people acting stupid online or even live at game.
But here's where it gets even more interesting. This isn't just about Caitlin Clark. Indiana has been building something special for years, the Fab Four. Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and Lexi Hull have established a culture of teamwork, grit, and selflessness. That foundation is exactly why big names are flocking to Indiana. DeWanna Bonner, Sydney Coulson, Natasha Howard, Sophie Cunningham. These aren't players chasing a paycheck. They're veterans looking to cement their legacy. Winning teams attract winners. And right now, Indiana is proving they're not just a rising team, they're a destination franchise. National TV games, sellout crowds, endorsement deals, and a wave of excitement the WNBA hasn't seen in years. This is what happens. When a franchise starts making noise, it creates opportunities for players to elevate their careers, both on and off the court.
It is, if you're good and you're playing well, it's great to be a Fever. If you're playing badly, it is the worst place you can be. And if you're a WNBA player, you've got to be able to.
And let's be honest, every player in this league is thinking beyond just the next game. They're thinking about securing their future, building their brand, and making a lasting impact. That's exactly why so many players are choosing Indiana. It's not about tolerating the fan base. It's about recognizing the momentum, the culture, and the opportunity. They see what's happening, and they want to be part of it.
No argument that the Fever are a great basketball destination, that Caitlin Clark is a great basketball player, that they have a great fan base. I guess that's ultimately what you're going to see, right? Because so many of those Fever fans, I've seen them, they're the ones watching Unrivaled. They're the ones watching women's college basketball.
Enter so, to the haters still pushing the same tired narrative, keep talking. Because while you're busy complaining,
with Natasha Howard, it was very clear that like that potential for stardom, which she never had in her career, no matter how good she's been, outweighed like any potential like downsides of playing for the Fever. And then for DeWanna Bonner, she had all those connections to Indiana, she had connections to Stephanie